Rob Blackman.
Well, hi, everyone. Good evening and welcome to Walk-Ons here in the Purdue Memorial Union. Indeed, it is time for the Matt Painter Show, and can you believe it? It's the final Matt Painter radio show of the season. My, how quickly it goes. Tonight, our 14th and final Matt Painter radio show program. So for those that have been with us maybe once or all 14 weeks or somewhere in between, we thank you for joining us. Coach is with us tonight, obviously, and we have a lot to talk to Coach Painter about here in these next 55 minutes or so. Purdue's played 2 games since we have last spoken, losing at Maryland this past Thursday night and in College Park by the final score of 68-54, and then Purdue beating Ohio State yesterday, Sunday at Mackey Arena by the final of 82-55. So what does all of that mean? It means Purdue is now 24-4 on the season and 13-4 in Big Ten play with 3 regular season games remaining, the first of which is coming up on Saturday night when Indiana will visit Mackey Arena for a 7:30 tip-off. So we'll talk to Coach Painter about those 2 games from the past week, plus we'll look ahead to a preview for the Indiana game coming up on Saturday night. If you would like to visit with the coach, the phone number is the same as it's been for the other 13 weeks of the season, 1-888-246-2678. That is 1-888-246-78. Coach Painter joins me next when we return. This is Purdue Basketball on the Purdue Global Sports Network, and this is Boilermaker Basketball from Learfield.
Obviously down shooting. They get it to Zach Edey on the box. Turns, making it look easy.
See how far out in the court Edey is now. That's a good opportunity to drive it.
Pursuing. Erased by Edey.
Watch this reaction by Edey to get back into a...
McNeil a starter in 23 of their 27 games this season. Good start for him in his new reserve role. Look at Edey. My goodness. Masterful.
Lets the defender go through and puts it away. It's so important to be patient, and he is just that.
By Purdue. Ohio State, by the way, ranks 2nd in the Big Ten in offensive rebounds per game. Today, just 2 so far. And Purdue builds on its lead. At Purdue,
watch the bump and push. There you go.
Sends the ball, just an impossible shot. Well played, Morton. Offensive rebound. Shot clock didn't reset. Didn't get rimmed. Lawyer off to the races. Where does the graduate transfer go here? Working in front of that Purdue bench. 7 to shoot. Here's Kaufman-Wren.
Good 3-point shooter here with the basketball.
Jenkins off balance. Sticks it.
That ball goes into the post. You see him just right here. Going to move through his right. Just one step. Gives you a little bit of spacing.
Smith against Gale. No look into the corner. Newman. Got it. Of the Boilermakers. Smith dropping a dime. And then a sweet stroke by Newman. Good news on the horizon for them, though. Top 5 recruiting class coming in next year. How quickly can they bounce back? Kaufman-Wren teeing off.
The Matt Painter Show presented by GEMCO Constructors, live tonight at Walk-Ons here in the Purdue Memorial Union, where it's always game day with a taste of Louisiana. I'm Rob Blackman, thanking you for joining us here on this Monday night. Again, the final Coach Painter Show of the season. So, if you've been thinking about calling into the program with a thought, a question, a comment, this is your final opportunity to do so until next year, obviously. So you might want to keep that in mind. We will go to the phones here in just a minute. Couple of quick reminders. Our next broadcast is coming your way game-wise Saturday night, 6:30 pregame, 7:30 tip-off. Purdue taking on Indiana, as our Boilermakers have this week to prepare for Indiana. No midweek game for Purdue here this week for our Boilermakers. Coach Painter's alongside. Coach, let's start with this. 2 games since we've last spoken. The loss of Maryland, the game yesterday, the victory against Ohio State at Mackey Arena. One number, or should I say 2 numbers, that really stick out to me from those 2 games, and they were completely flipped. The rebounding numbers. First game against Maryland, out-rebounded 35-23. Then you flip it yesterday on Ohio State, out-rebound those guys 44-21. and wouldn't you know it, you're really successful in the game that you out-rebounded the opponent.
Yeah, anytime you can dominate somebody like that, you're going to put yourself in a great position, especially when you don't have very many turnovers and you're able to get the ball to Zach Edey. And yesterday, the fouls were called. Like the obvious egregious ones were called. And so that combination right there, going to the Maryland game, I thought Maryland did a tremendous job. I mean, we had how many offensive rebounds did we have? Not in the Maryland game, but the other game.
Oh, Ohio State. 14.
Yeah. So, Mason Gillis had 3 offensive rebounds. Our team had 3 offensive rebounds against Maryland. Zach has 7 offensive rebounds. He has 2 in the game. He's averaging a little under 6 offensive rebounds a game. So, we're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. And there was offensive rebounds to get. Sometimes there wasn't a lot of defensive rebounds in that second half because they shot so well. Maryland shot, there just wasn't a lot of rebounds there. But there was offensive rebounds to get because they went on a 30-5 run, if I'm not mistaken, after we got that 8-9 point lead in the second half. So have to do a better job when shots aren't falling for us of giving ourselves those opportunities in the Maryland game. We obviously did that in the Ohio State game, and you see the difference.
Well, you mentioned the turnovers, and that's something I know we talked about an awful lot on last Monday's program. The fact of the matter is, against Maryland, the turnover number was low, just 7. And then, look at yesterday, there were 11 turnovers, but 2 of those came after you went very deep to your bench. So really it was 9 turnovers among your regular 9 guys that play in the rotation. Safe to say you can live with that number being in there? And that 7
question.
To 9?
Yeah, you get 7 to 7.5 leads the nation. That's normally, we led the nation one year about 10 years ago at 7.8, something like, maybe it was 8.7, 7 point, but right around in that neighborhood is normally when you're gonna have a lot of success and be one of the nation's leader. With that. But I thought our guys did a great job in both those games taking care of the basketball and putting ourselves in a good position. The 3 previous games we didn't. Yeah. The Penn State game was before that. That's when you kindly spoke on it and said 7 turnovers and keep it there. And we're not saying you jinxed us, Rob. But
I did.
Yes, a little bit.
You are exactly right.
But that's those 3 games in a row there, when you get 16, 17, 16 turnovers, man, you got to shoot the ball well and you got to dominate the glass. And a couple of those games we did dominate the glass. So when you have the recipe of not taking care of the basketball and not shooting well, that you have to be very, very good in other areas then if you think you're going to be successful. I don't care what your record is, where you're ranked. You just absolutely can't do that. And we've had a couple games where we've done that.
Let's go to the phones. We'll take our first phone caller of the night. Again, the number 1-888-246-2678. And we'll start with Drew in Raleigh, who's been a regular caller to the program. Drew, welcome to the show.
Hey, Coach. This is actually Mrs. Drew from Raleigh tonight.
There you
go. Congrats on a great win yesterday. Coach, you've mentioned numerous times that there are 3 primary goals the team has this year in winning the Big Ten, the Big Ten tourney, and the NCAA tourney. Mm-hmm. With such a long season, how do you balance working towards each of those unique goals on a weekly basis from both a logistics perspective as well as an emotional and mental one? And then additionally, how do you personally make you enjoy the season in the moment the best you can, despite the ups and downs that come? Thanks so much.
Yeah, the one thing to answer your question that it makes it harder when you keep winning. And I know that makes no sense because you would think that, the more you win, the more the more you win in coaching, the more you expect to continue to win and you want to keep it going. You want to stay. And there's normally, outside of teams having perfect seasons, that you're going to have a lull at one point. Like the team that has the most quad 1 wins in the country is Kansas. They have 12. They lost 3 games in a row in the Big 12 this season. But yet they have the most, quality wins, for a team. But as the season progresses, obviously you get gauged on how you finish. You get gauged on, do you win a game in the NCAA tournament? Do you win 2 games? Do you win 3? Do you get to the Final Four? Things of that nature. But the Big Ten and conference comes before. So we really kind of put it from non-conference to conference to the NCAA tournament. Obviously, the Big Ten tournament is in there. We've probably only went to the Big Ten tournament probably one time where we could play our way into the tournament, and that was the first time we went. We beat Iowa when we had Carl Landry and David Teague, and then we got beat by Greg Oden in Ohio State. But we got into the tournament in an 8-9 game at that time. The other times we've played in the tournament where we didn't have a chance to do it, we'd have to win it all the other times we were in the in the NCAA tournament going into the Big Ten tournament. So that's a little bit different. If you have to go into the Big Ten tournament and you have to win a game, 2 games, 3 games, if you have to win it all, that's different, as I spoke on. But so for us, kind of getting through the season and trying to win the Big Ten, that is such a grind. Those 20 games are such a grind. That's a difficult chore. So one thing coaches jump up and really applaud other coaches about, because they know how hard that is to be that consistent and be able to win a championship through 20 games now. You got to understand, when I first came, back into the Big Ten, back to Purdue, it was 16 games. And then it moved after a handful of years, and it went to 18 games. And I think this is the 4th year we've had it at 20, or maybe the 3rd year we've had it at 20. I'm not sure. And I think it helps our league, but it is a grind. It's a huge grind. And when you get to the end right here, you can see everybody. You can see some fatigue, with players. You can see some fatigue with officials. I think you see that. You see, just everybody as you start to grind, because everybody wants it at this time. Everybody wants to, jockey for the NCAA tournament, put themselves in a position for the Big Ten tournament and things of that nature. But I have a saying that you got to make your hard work fun, and that's what I try to do every day. And no matter what people say about you, no matter what people say about your players, you have to understand that, you don't take criticism from people you don't take advice from. So if I reach out to you and, and I want your opinion about something and I need your advice, I can handle your criticism. Like if Billy Donovan says something about me, or Mike Krzyzewski says something about me, or Gene Cady or Bobby Knight, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to listen. But if, Joe Smith from the internet or message boards or says I should use more timeouts, or I should zone, or I should get a technical, or do something like that, that flies right over my head. Like that's foolish. But young people fall into that trap. And young people, if you need the cheers, man, you're going to die from them boos. Like you have to stay on even keel, and that's what we talk about. We set our narrative here. We weren't supposed to be here. We weren't supposed to be in the top 25. We weren't supposed to compete for a Big Ten championship. We lost too much. Well, we didn't let them set that narrative, all right? But then once you do lose, people kind of change that narrative and put it on you or whatever. You're still the same team, but you have holes. There is not a team in college basketball that doesn't have holes. I don't see UCLA with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar where you're like, man, I don't think they're going to get beat. I don't see a Houston team with Elvin Hayes. Like, I don't see that. I don't see Patrick Ewing's Georgetown Hoyas. Like, I just don't. All the teams, all the great teams right now, I think there's about 20 teams that could do it all. But that's just the parity. That's what we live in. That's the way it is. So when people say, you need this, or you need that, or hey, man, we need to be together collectively. We need to compete. We need to play hard. We need to play to our strengths. But you also have to know there's going to be some, there's going to be some downside at that point. That's when you got to stay positive. That's when you got to stay together, because that's how you get through it.
Mrs. Drew, thank you for the call.
Good job, Mrs. Drew.
That was good stuff. We'll come back here in a second. Matt Painter Show brought to you by GEMCO on the Purdue Global Sports Network. This is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
Will that be enough for Macy Vieta to win the Big Ten title?
Awards 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7.5,
58.8,
7.
Maggie Merriman. And your 2023 Big Ten Women's Swimming and Diving Champion. Also from Purdue University with a score of 318.30, Macy Vieta.
couple of looks at Macy Vieta's strong night, a couple of dives that scored well over 70 points. And she was the class of the field in platform diving in 2023.
She secured plenty of eights tonight. I mean, take a look. Her entry and her execution was just so consistent across the board. I mean, that splash, minimal.
Macy, congratulations. How would you describe your diving tonight? You had a couple of big dives over 70 points, but you were pretty consistent as well, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. You know, I really just tried to stay focused and not worry about the previous or the next one. I tried to really think about the one I was on and execute my cues, and, you know, the results came after.
And we just saw a pretty exciting moment for you on the podium as you motioned up to both your teammates, 3 Boilermakers, all in the final. That's got to be pretty exciting and obviously a great environment to train with.
Absolutely. Honestly, we all love Tower so much, and so we really wanted to go out there and represent Purdue the way we know how. And so having my teammates up there is the best feeling in the world. I know I'm not alone, and we're all in this together.
Purdue Global is Purdue's accredited and affordable online solution for working adults. Persistence pays off at Purdue Global. Rob Blackman here with head coach Matt Painter. This is the Matt Painter Radio Show. Coach Painter mentioned Coach Katie in that last segment. I want to make sure I bring this to everyone's attention. You may have heard this news came down Friday afternoon, but Coach Katie has been named a finalist for induction into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Yeah, nice round of applause for that. Coach Katie is one of 12 finalists. This is the 3rd time now that he's been a finalist and made it to this stage. So let's hope that the 3rd time is a charm for Coach Katie. We will all find out on April the 1st. April the 1st is when that news will be released on who actually made it into the Naismith Hall of Fame. Let's go back to the phone lines. Nick is joining us next. Nick, welcome to the show. You're on with Coach Painter.
Hi, Coach Painter. I have more of a comment than a question, and that comment is something you just hit into last question you answered. And I really greatly appreciate what you said last call last week, and that was, why don't you take a technical, why don't you get more interactive and all that? And what I wanted to say to you and how you responded to that question is, that is so professional, and you really have your leadership skills right where you need to be with our players on the team, not just for basketball, but really setting them up in the community. I'm active duty military, and I will tell you that it's just the old day of yelling and screaming. I know it was the Katie days, the night days, but when you respond to that, I really wish I could find a post and just really tag that and just share that out in the community. So I really wanted to call in this week and tell you I really appreciate that comment. I think people need to pay attention to that. If you do get more out of not yelling, just having that conversation, having that discussion. I wish you luck in the tournament, and I wish you luck all the way through. You guys are doing tremendous, good and bad. It doesn't matter. It's learning either way. So thanks for letting me call in, and like I said, thanks for addressing last week's comment the way you did.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. The one thing that I think gets lost, and people don't know because they can't hear me down there because I don't yell and scream and I talk, but I'm probably as interactive as anybody that coaches. I'm just not demonstrative with what I'm doing. Like, I am talking to them at all times. I'm asking them questions at all times, and I'm trying to get to the point. I said last week after I watched film, I don't like to have a knee-jerk response to officiating. So, like, I think it's a very hard job. I have a lot of respect for them. My eyes aren't very good, and I stink when I argue when the ball's away from me. I absolutely stink. I'm no good at it. All right? So when I argue things that are on the other end of the court, half the game's on the other end of the court. And when I argue, and I saw that I'm rarely right. And I just am. And when the ball's in front of me, I'm pretty good. When it's 10 feet in front of me, it's an easier game to call, obviously, at that point. So, but what I try to do, and I watched that film, and I was taken aback the Northwestern game and the Maryland game, how many things that were missed. And I spoke on only one that really has a complaint is Zach Edey. Fletch has really got a tough whistle after watching more games and seeing stuff and kind of like gathering my thoughts. He his drives and some of his shots that he's made, he's gotten hit a lot, and obviously with Zach. But I thought Zach summed it up yesterday in the post game the best when he just says, no more about officials, because you have to keep your focus. And we can't control that, right, wrong, or indifferent. We can't control that. But what I try to tell him is kind of let me worry about that. Let's work towards, being efficient and doing what we can do to get the ball in position and then play hard. And I know this, if you play better, you will diminish the impact of the officials. You're not going to eliminate it, but you will diminish it. It will go down. And if you play poorly, it will enhance it. And you don't want that. So make your free throws, don't turn the ball over, get a rebound, play better, right? And a lot of times guys are like, they want more minutes or they want something. Hey, man, like, listen, do what you're supposed to do. Like, help yourself, help your cause. Well, the same holds true for me. The same holds true for us, how we handle that. Keep your focus on what it needs to be. It doesn't mean you can't argue calls. It doesn't mean that you can't do your job to try to lobby for it. But the people that say that and say you need to do this or do that, they don't know. They absolutely don't know, because you're dealing with human beings and each one of them's got a different personality, and coaches get kicked out and players get technicals and things happen. I don't think it moves the needle. It might with somebody inexperienced or not very good, but I don't believe it does with the guys that ref our games.
Nick, thank you for your phone call. GEMCO Constructors is supporting your Boilermakers as the presenting sponsor of the Matt Painter Show. They're a proud partner of Purdue Athletics. GEMCO Constructors says boiler up. We'll be back in 2 minutes with Coach Painter. More phone calls to come. This is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
George has always been a big dreamer.
He was talking about how he wanted to be the best NFL player when he hadn't even played a whole year of football.
Let's do it. Go Boilers.
On the face of my city, co-signed by Diddy.
Prove him wrong.
Prove them wrong. That's big to me. People don't believe you. All right, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Keep again. Karlaftis is there. George Karlaftis, the freshman. The crown jewel of this Purdue recruiting class.
What a play by George. Karlaftis. He just kept the relentless pressure.
Yeah.
He didn't slow down at all.
It's loose. Karlaftis has it. He's at midfield. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. 5. Touchdown, Boilermakers. George Karlaftis on the fumble return.
NFL draft. The Kansas City Chiefs select George Karlaftis.
Wow.
Defensive end, Purdue.
I'm proud of that kid. It's hard to make it through as a rookie, period. 17 games, but get better every week at that position, is something. I mean, it's as much mental as it is physical, and he is relentless. You see him in practice, he goes 100 miles an hour at practice. He transfers that into games, so my hat goes off to him.
Burrow facing the heat again. Karlaftis, the rookie.
Pieces just fit. They recruit to their system, their identity, their culture. These guys are willing to wait, learn the system, and earn their opportunity.
No look pass. First has it, and a foul.
Another great find from Braden Smith.
Those two dudes don't play like freshmen. Number one is looking like number one.
The Purdue Boilermakers are ranked number 5 in the latest Associated Press poll that came out earlier this afternoon. Purdue number 5 this week. Indiana, by the way, ranked 17th this week, so we'll have a top 25 showdown coming up Saturday night at Mackey Arena with Purdue and Indiana. Let's go back to the phones. Matt calling in from the state of Indiana. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Hey, Coach. Congrats on what's been a really fun season so far. Looking forward to obviously watching you guys here in March. Was hoping you might be able to explain a little bit about the process when you do go through, the game footage and you look back. I know you can reach out to the league office, or I think you can reach out to the league office about certain concerns. How does that process work, and do they respond to you on each individual concern with, hey, yeah, here's what was right, here's what was wrong, or here's what we're going to do in the future to change it, or do they say, hey, tough luck, good luck next time? Thank you.
Yeah, you can reach out and talk. They have a person who handles everything, and call them and kind of go through, different things that happen and different calls that happen, and then just kind of, go from there. They're on it anyways, and so they've already went and watched it. They've already went and rewatched it and dissected it and graded it out, so they know stuff. So right as you pop up and say things, they also have different angles. So obviously when you watch it at the TV angle, whatever they give you, and so you don't always have the angles. And then there's different things I try to get, besides the obvious things, to get and just kind of ask. And so we had a couple hook and holds in one of our games earlier, and I didn't see it during the game. And so I just said how should I handle this? But one of my guys on the bench was like, yeah, I saw it, but just, the guy was just like, hey, you need to pop up and you need to say something. Like, go to him and say, hey, that's, go to the monitor. That's a hook and hold. So you'll be surprised of what you watch as a coach and what you don't see versus what you see. So, yeah, you have to be a little bit careful with it. The thing that gets you is the ability to work together with 3 officials. Like, that's the whole thing. Just think of the old school 2-man crew and how much got missed. And so with the 3 officials and the responsibilities. But I've always tried to listen to the coordinators at the conference office and learn from them and learn, like, what's the protocol, and learn, since I'm not an official, like, what these guys do and how they go about it, and, the proper professionalism, the proper mechanics, things of that nature. It is a very, very difficult job. But I've learned a lot through the years talking to different officials and different coordinators and things, about it. But the thing that I get to is the trends, right? It's just like anything in business or anything. You see certain trends of how things unfold and why they are that way. And then you hear, like, the national guys talk about, what's a foul, what's not a foul. We're going to clean up post play. And it gets a hair comical when you have a post player like we do with what they're saying. Because what they're saying, the knees, the 2 hands, the grabbing, the holding, they're obvious, fouls, and they should be called. And if they called those, like, he would just live at the free throw line. He'd get 30 free throws a game. And they just can't do it to that degree. So I just want the obvious stuff. And so that's what I really go back and just say, like, why are they ignoring obvious things? Why are they walking into him while he's shooting the ball and he can't land and they're not calling? So I just try to get to that. And then when it doesn't happen, like, hey, like, what can we do here, to be able to get this across? Or am I wrong? Just tell me. I'll get it corrected then. And so that's really just the dialogue of going back and forth. You're just trying to coach your players on how to do things. That's all it is. Like, you know what to do, but when it comes to officials, sometimes, guys are different, but they should have a consistent call. Like, the call should be the same. And sometimes it's not. Like yesterday's calls, that was a lot different. They called it. They 2 hands in the back, they called it. They got under him, a 6'4" guy's guarding a 7'4" guy. They got under him with his knee. They just called it right away, and they got to it. Now, that's to our benefit, but, and I'm biased, and I thought they were good calls. I thought it was the best officiated game we've had in a really, really long time in terms of Zach.
Matt, thank you for the call. We are at walk-ons tonight, as we have been all season long. Everyone needs a little playing time, so before a Purdue basketball game or any time throughout the week, stop by walk-ons in the Purdue Memorial Union, where it's always game day with a taste of Louisiana. Time now for our Pro Boilers feature, where we look at how former Purdue student-athletes are doing in their professional sports careers. Pro Boilers is presented by Indiana Kitchen Premium Pork Products. Get to know us at indianakitchen.com. Both our Pro Boilers and Indiana Kitchen are boiler-made. And tonight we focus on the XFL, because why not? The XFL season started yesterday, and believe it or not, we do have a former Boilermaker in the XFL. Jalen Robinson, son of former Purdue great Glenn Robinson, playing for the St. Louis franchise, and they won their season opener. He had 3 tackles in the win, beat San Antonio 18-15. So Jalen Robinson, congratulations to you. And you may know this, fans, Rod Woodson, the former Boilermaker great, is actually a head coach in the XFL. He's coaching the franchise in Vegas. They're called the Vegas Vipers. Although Coach Woodson off to an 0-1 start, they actually lost their season opener this weekend to Arlington. More phone calls with Coach Painter when we come back here to the Matt Painter Show, presented by GEMCO on the Purdue Global Sports Network. This is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
Obviously gone shooting. They get it to Zach Edey on the box. Turns, making it look easy.
See how far out in the court Edey is now. That's a good opportunity to drive it.
Pursuing. Erased by Edey.
Watch this reaction by Edey to get back into it. Getting those shots in rhythm to some extent, knowing that the ball is coming around the horn.
Here comes basketball. Turn back. Edey.
You could see that one coming from over here. Good step out there. Go back to find Edey.
Warrior gets it to Edey on the box. Steps middle. Right over the top of Brown like he wasn't even there. McNeil a starter in 23 of their 27 games this season. Good start for him in his new reserve role. Look at Edey. My goodness. Masterful.
Lets the defender go through and puts it away. It's so important to be patient, and he is just that.
The slow scoring drought, scoreless for almost 3 minutes. Who do they turn to here? Dale! We're taking on the big Edey.
Nothing at all, because when he's moving his feet, you have to be real.
Morton gets it to Lawyer.
Back the man out of that zone. Good look.
Edey doubled. Jenkins. Oh.
Wow. Vicious putback for Edey.
And Matt takes us to halftime.
Watch the footwork and watch how you can't stop him body-wise. He's just pushing people. Extending it, taking some time off the clock, but try not to foul as much.
Thornton, no. Edey. And a good look at it. And then Dillis turned back. Akpara, but Edey, he's just too big.
To get up a little bit. Look at the 3 white shirts. The drive goes to the basket. They stay on the glass. And then Edey keeps it shoulder high, chest high, and finishes it all.
Welcome back to the Matt Painter Show, presented by GEMCO. GEMCO Constructors, supporting your Boilermakers, is the presenting sponsor of the Matt Painter Show. They're a proud partner of Purdue Athletics. GEMCO Constructors says boiler up. We go back to the phones. We go to North Carolina, where Matt is calling in from. Matt, welcome to the show. You're on with Coach.
Hey, Coach. One thing I love about you is you don't make excuses. And one of the things I wanted to ask was, now that you are the hunted, you're number 1, number 3 in the country. You're getting everybody's best shot. It's not. What kind of emotional or stress does that take on your team, and how do you coach your team through that? Do you feel like that the stress and the toll of getting everybody's best shot has taken a toll on your team versus a team that gets to play with house money?
Yeah, that's. I think it's something that comes up a lot for people to think about, because, you know, whether you're ranked 1st, 3rd, or 5th like we are now, you do get people's best shot. But it's not like they're laying down for you if you're not ranked. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like they're just like saying, we're just going to play dead here and you guys can roll over us. And it's not the way it works. But I understand your point. At a clinic about 8 to 10 years ago, I heard a sports psychologist say this, and I've always used it since. Like, no matter how you feel, like the crowd gets loud, or you're feeling pressure, or you're feeling fear, or you have anxiety, or whatever it might be, while you're playing the game, you can still do your job. And I've never forgotten that. And that's what I always talk about. Like, hey, man, like, you just turn it over and you're a little bit nervous. Concentrate on your job. Concentrate on what you need to do now. You just missed a shot that you thought you should make. Concentrate on doing your job on the defensive end. Like, that's over. Like, you can't go and replay the game and get that shot back. You can't get that turnover back. Like, you have to be able to have a focus and kind of recalibrate your brain to being like, I can do my job. And I always say that to our guys. I would never ask somebody to do something that they weren't physically capable of doing. And so if, like, we're asking you to do something, that means we think you're capable, or we wouldn't ask you to do it, or we wouldn't play you. You know, that's just as simple. But if you can put that into their minds and their brains to make them understand it, you're cutting them a little bit, but you're also telling them that we have confidence in you, and if we didn't, we wouldn't play you. Like, now, concentrate on the job at hand and then have fun with it. I think that's the one thing is, you know, competing, playing hard, doing your job, but find a way to have fun with it. And that's not at anybody else's expense. Whatever that is for you, you know, you have to enjoy it. It's still a game. But you got to be grimy and have that edge on the defensive end. And then you got to be loose on the offensive end. You know, it doesn't mean you're loose like taking care of the basketball. It just means you got to, you know, your shot comes, you got to step into it. And the time that you practice and what you do, you got to do the same thing. And don't get upset about doing your job and then it doesn't go your way. Just stay with it and stay process-based. But I've always reverted to that in terms of when you get into big crowds or things get sticky, or you're playing for a Big Ten title, or you're in the Big Ten championship game, or, you know, you get to that second weekend and you're trying to push through to get to a Final Four. Like, stay process-based, keep competing, keep playing, keep going after it, but have fun with it. Don't get lost in all that, because everybody feels that. You know, it's You know, it's like the old story about the hero and the goat. Both of them felt the same thing. You know, one let it affect them and the other one didn't. But they both felt the same thing and understand that. And I really talked to our guys a lot about it and about their personality and how they are and whatever. I'm like, you're going to keep feeling the same way you feel. That's the way the Lord made you. That's the way you are wired. How you handle it going forward has to change. And then now you can give them, you know, some tools and how to handle some things for how they are. You know, some guys are over the top, some guys are a hair passive, whatever it might be. And then you try to give them the tools to be able to deal with it so the next time that happens, now they can have success by staying process-based.
This is the Matt Painter Show presented by GEMCO. This is the Purdue Global Sports Network. We'll come back right after this. This is Boilermaker Basketball from Learfield.
Obviously gone shooting. They get it to Zach Edey on the box. Turns, making it look easy.
See how far out in the court Edey is now. That's a good opportunity to drive it.
Pursuing. Erased by Edey.
Watch this reaction by Edey to get back into it.
McNeil, a starter in 23 of their 27 games this season. Good start for him in his new reserve role. Look at Edey. My goodness. Masterful.
Lets the defender go through and puts it away. It's so important to be patient, and he is just that.
By Purdue. Ohio State, by the way, ranks second in the Big Ten in offensive rebounds per game. Today, just 2 so far. And Purdue builds on its lead. At Purdue,
watch the bump and push. There you go.
Sends the ball, just an impossible shot. Well played, Morton. Offensive rebound. Shot clock didn't reset. Didn't get rim. Lawyer off to the races. Where does the graduate transfer go here? Working in front of that Purdue bench. 7 to shoot. Here's Kaufman-Wren.
Good three-point shooter here with the basketball.
Jenkins off balance. Sticks it.
That ball goes into the post. You see him just right here. Going to move through his right. Just one step. Gives you a little bit of spacing.
Smith against Gale. No look into the corner. Newman. Got it. Of the Boilermakers, Smith dropping a dime. And then a sweet stroke by Newman. Good news on the horizon for them, though. Top 5 recruiting class coming in next year. Yep. How quickly can they bounce back? Kaufman-Wren teeing off.
We are at walk-ons. Everyone needs a little playing time, so before a Purdue basketball game or any time throughout the week, stop by walk-ons in the Purdue Memorial Union, where it's always game day with a taste of Louisiana. Walk-Ons has been an outstanding host of our Matt Painter program all season long. Walk-Ons, we thank you for that. Here's a question for the coach. Comes from Annie, who's right here in our Walk-Ons audience. She says, you know, Coach, sometimes our players seem hesitant to accept credit for games where they put up amazing stats or great plays. They instead seem to be more about crediting their teammates and their coaches. Why so important to have players on your team who have that type of mentality?
Yeah, no question. That's great. You know, winners take it, and when you get that, and they understand that. They understand when things go wrong, and if you're a winner, you take it. And that's what you try to do as a coach. You try to take it as much as possible. Sometimes things get lost, and so somebody will ask you a question, and then you answer the question, and then all of a sudden, as you kind of think back on your answer as a coach, you're like, I wish I wouldn't have been – it's terrible to say, right? I wish I wouldn't have been as honest. I wish I would have camouflaged it a little bit to protect my guy, because that's what you try to do as a coach. Like, you try to protect your guys. Sometimes I answer things and I don't think, and I just answer it honestly. Then I'm like, man, I probably didn't put him in great light right there. But I think you've seen that with Zach when Braden took responsibility for that late turnover against Indiana, and then Zach stepped in there and it was more or less talking about everybody made mistakes in the game and how he didn't have a great first half and things like that. And that's, you know, that's super. That's what you want from one of your players, and I think we have that with all of our players. I think they understand that and they get that. You know, we have a real team, and maybe we're short in a couple areas, but we have a real team. We have guys that care about themselves. We have guys that are thinking about the right things. We have a couple of them that are a little trigger happy sometimes, and I lose my mind, but for the most part, our guys do a really good job of sharing the basketball and playing together. But when things go wrong, not running from that and not making excuses. And that's what it's about. When the world's turning upside down, when you lose a game, you got to be honest with yourself. And you can listen to a lot of different voices and a lot of different things. Just listen to that film. That film's going to tell the true story. And that's what I always say as a coach is like, before I can fix them, I have to fix myself because I probably made some mistakes. Or I did make some mistakes in games. What people don't understand is you make mistakes when you win too. And sometimes the ball going in camouflages a lot. And they're like, man, your offense was great. Yeah, well, we made 16 threes. We made all of our free throws. It looks good. You could do all the same things and you miss shots. And then they're like, man, your offense stinks. It's like, it's the same as it was last week. It's doing the same things. We just didn't make shots or things were different. So I think that's an important piece to understand because it allows you to dig out of holes. It allows you to stick together, especially when you feel like no one's on your side.
More with Coach Painter when we come back here. Matt from South Bend, stay on the line. You'll be next. This is Coach Painter Show on the Purdue Global Sports Network, and this is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
Will that be enough for Macy Vieta to win the Big Ten title?
Awards 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7.5,
58.8,
7.
Maggie Merriman. And your 2023 Big Ten Women's Swimming and Diving Champion. Also from Purdue University with a score of 318.30. Macy Vieta.
Couple of looks at Macy Vieta's strong night. Couple of dives that scored well over 70 points. And she was the class of the field in platform diving in 2023.
She secured plenty of eights tonight. I mean, take a look. Her entry and her execution was just so consistent across the board. I mean, that splash minimal.
Macy, congratulations. How would you describe your diving tonight? You had a couple of big dives over 70 points, but you were pretty consistent as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I really just tried to stay focused and not worry about the previous or the next one. I tried to really think about the one I was on and execute my cues, and, the results came after.
And we just saw a pretty exciting moment for you on the podium as you motioned up to both your teammates, 3 Boilermakers, all in the final. That's got to be pretty exciting and obviously a great environment to train with.
Absolutely. Honestly, we all love Tower so much, and so we really wanted to go out there and represent Purdue the way we know how, and so having my teammates up there is the best feeling in the world. I know I'm not alone, and we're all in this together.
Welcome back to Walk-Ons in the Purdue Memorial Union. This is the Matt Painter Show presented by GEMCO. We've had plenty of great phone callers tonight for our final show of the season. So let's see if we can keep it going. Matt from South Bend, you're next. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for taking my call, Rod. And Coach Painter, I just want to say I have to bring back some of my old T-shirts, the ones that say that Purdue is the winningest team against all the other Big Ten, thanks to yesterday's game. So got another piece of that. We're going to put that together with another one, maybe a three-peat of the Big Ten title. So I'm hoping. So God bless you, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't realize that until after the game when they said that now we have a winning record against Ohio State, and that gives us a winning record versus all Big Ten teams. So that's a pretty cool accomplishment and just kind of shows the history of Purdue basketball has been very, very good for a long time.
To piggyback what off Coach Painter and Matt are talking about, Purdue and Ohio State went into that game yesterday with 92 wins apiece. 92-92 was the all-time series, and with Purdue winning, Purdue now 93 wins, obviously. So that was the last team that Purdue did not have a winning record against in men's basketball in the Big Ten. So Indeed, Purdue does have a winning record over every single team currently in the Big Ten. Coach, let's talk about the game coming up Saturday against Indiana, 7:30 at Mackey Arena. The rematch from the game played back on February the 4th, a game in which Indiana beat Purdue 79-74. What do you remember about that game, and how can maybe we can flip the script on them this second time around?
Yeah, just the turnovers in the first half, very similar to last year's game. In the first half, we really worked hard in practice leading up to it. I know it didn't look like it, and just have to do a better job of taking care of the basketball. When we took care of the basketball and got some good shots in the second half, we obviously got ourselves back into the game, and we got ourselves back into the game pretty quickly. A lot of times when you're down 15 points, you're on the road trying to chisel that lead. It takes, the whole half to try to get something there. We were in a pretty good spot, like at that 10-minute mark. I think it was at 4, maybe at that time 5 at that time, but we just never could get it where we got the lead. I thought Trace Jackson-Davis was phenomenal in that first half, just very hard for us to deal with. We had not done a whole lot different, just a couple different ways to deal with him or whatever. We were just late. We were late. He bum rushed us a couple times and overpowered us, and we had to do a better job. We didn't do a good job on Hood Schifino. I thought he had a really good game, made some really, really tough shots. So we're going to have to do a better job defensively, and then offensively we're going to have to do a better job taking care of the basketball. I just thought they simply outplayed us, and then we just couldn't make enough plays in the second half to put ourselves in a position where now they lost that lead and they were playing from behind.
You mentioned the turnovers. Purdue had 16 turnovers in that game, but it led to 20 points for Indiana. Sometimes you turn it over a lot, but it doesn't affect you at the other end. It just felt like, I know this isn't the case, but it felt like every one of those turnovers was a live ball turnover that put Indiana in transition. It just felt like that.
And that's what does it, the live ball turnovers. And so when you're playing and you're getting into it, it's like the Keystone Cop routine we did at the start of the Ohio State game. In the last game to start the game, you're like, what are we doing here? Come on. And now you settle into it. You go, well, sometimes when you get to that routine, you don't have time to settle into it. You're down 15 at half. You got to be able to start off a game and give yourself a chance. Like I said, sometimes the ball doesn't go in, but we have such a good offensive rebounding team. If you get quality shots, the percentage of them going in, you're in that 45 to 50% range. Now, what's your percentage on offensive rebound? Well, we're either 1 or 2 in the country there out of 361 teams. So, you just have to get quality shots. And we weren't getting any shots. And then, as Rob mentioned, those live ball turnovers. You'd rather a guy just punt the ball in the stands. Because when you punt the ball in the stands, the score doesn't change. But when you throw it to the other team and they run the other way 4-on-2, you're either fouling or getting scored on.
It is Purdue. It's Indiana. It's Saturday night. It is 7:30 at Mackey Arena. That place should be jumping on Saturday. Final segment of the Matt Painter Show. When we come back, Coach Painter Show brought to you, as always, by GEMCO. This is the Purdue Global Sports Network, and this is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
George has always been a big dreamer.
He was talking about how he wanted to be the best NFL player when he hadn't even played a whole year of football.
Let's do it. Go Boilers.
On the face of my city, co-signed by Diddy.
Prove him wrong.
Prove them wrong. That's big to me. People don't believe you. All right, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Keep again. Karlaftis is there. George Karlaftis, the freshman.
The crown jewel of this Purdue recruiting class.
What a play by George. Karlaftis. He just kept the relentless pressure. Yeah. He didn't slow down at all.
It's loose. Karlaftis has it. He's at midfield. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. 5. Touchdown, Boilermakers. George Karlaftis on the fumble return.
22 NFL draft. The Kansas City Chiefs select George Karlaftis.
Wow.
Defensive end, Purdue.
I'm proud of that kid. It's hard to make it through as a rookie, period. 17 games. But get better every week at that position, is something. I mean, it's as much mental as it is physical, and he is relentless. You see him in practice. He goes 100 miles an hour at practice. He transfers that into games, so my hat goes off to him.
Burrow facing the heat again. Karlaftis, the rookie.
Pieces just fit. They recruit to their system, their identity, their culture. These guys are willing to wait, learn the system, and earn their opportunity.
No look pass. First has it, and the foul.
Another great find from Braden Smith.
Those two dudes don't play like freshmen.
Number one is looking like number one.
All right, everyone, here we go. Final segment of the Matt Painter Show. Not only tonight, but for this basketball season. Can you believe it? It just seems to go so quickly. 14 coaches shows spread out over the course of the basketball season. And, heck, we still have 3 regular season games left before postseason play begins. So there'll be no nugget here tonight. Instead, I'd like to just take a few minutes to say thank you to all of the folks who have been so instrumental in making sure that the Matt Painter Show has gone off without a hitch for all 14 of these programs. It starts with you, the fans, and especially those who are able to make it to the games at Mackey Arena. I think most of you know this, but yesterday was the 55th straight sellout for a Purdue men's basketball game at Mackey Arena. What an incredible number. 55 straight sellouts, and of course Saturday will be number 56 when Indiana comes to town. So fans, a huge thank you to you. What a huge difference you make with a full building, and certainly the exuberance and the enthusiasm that you bring to the building. And that includes, of course, the good folks with the paint crew, who are the best in the business. And I bring that up because the PR man for the paint crew is Jaden Brown. He is here tonight. Jaden has been with us actually most of the season here live at Walk-Ons. Jaden, thanks for all that you guys do with the paint crew. You guys are awesome, man. Hey, Jaden was telling me 7:30 tip-off for this coming Saturday night's game with Indiana. The paint crew, they will begin assembling at 7 a.m. in Holloway Gymnasium Saturday morning. So paint crew is going to be ready to go. Jaden, thanks to you and all the folks in the paint crew. Maybe the biggest thank you of all goes to our server here at Walk-Ons, who's been with us all season, Anthony Borho. Right here, Anthony Borho. He's been at every single show, right, Anthony? He's been our server for every single show. He's done a wonderful job. Anthony, thanks so much for all that you have done, and everyone here at Walk-Ons for what you guys have provided us here for the Matt Painter Radio Show. Big thank you to Hunter, who's been behind the camera all season long. Hunter handles things for those of you who are watching live on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter Live. So thanks to Hunter, and, of course, thanks to Wes Scott, who is my on-site audio engineer. Wes handles the men's basketball radio program on Monday nights. He handles Football Coaches Show, handles Katie Gerald's radio show, which comes up immediately after our program here. So thank you to Wes for that. And finally, the biggest thank you of all to those of you that have managed to join us, whether it's once or maybe all 14 weeks here live at Walk-Ons. It's great to see so many familiar faces. It just makes my life so much more enjoyable knowing that we have some diehard Purdue fans who are willing to come out and join us every Monday night. So from my bottom of my heart, thank you very much. We will visit again Saturday night at Mackey Arena when Purdue plays host to Indiana. 6:30 for the broadcast, 7:30 for the tip. Purdue and Indiana, the rivalry renewed. Big thank you to Ethan Sargent, our in-studio engineer tonight. For everyone here at Walk-Ons and the Purdue Radio Network, thanks for joining us all season.